There seems to be a movement that being qualified to serve in government disqualifies you to serve in government. I certainly can't support that, in part because I help train those current leaders and those future leaders. I think we as a people have a shared interest in wanting people to be qualified to do the tasks they're hired to do for our shared mutual benefit.
Welcome to Management Matters. I'm James Christian Blockwood. Our guests today are two champions in public administration and experts in how a good government should act. Dr. Howard Balanoff is an Academy Fellow and serves as the director of the William P. Hobby Center for Public Service at Texas State University, dedicated to providing the next generation of public administrators with the tools to succeed. Alan Bojorquez is the managing attorney of the Bojorquez law firm and was recently recognized as a 250 Public Service Champion, a celebration of individuals from all government sectors who have made a significant impact on their community. Welcome to you both.
Thank you, James Christian.
Thanks.
We always like to start with a broad view. In your opinion, what is the definition of good government? Most people know it when they see it. They know what it's not. But how do we actually give a definition that says what it is? And maybe, Howard, we can start with you.
I think the first thing is the emphasis on ethical government. I think ethics is absolutely one of the most important traits, and we can move on and talk about efficiency and how getting things done and continue to talk about how important it is to educate our public servants in all of the aspects of good government.
And Alan, what does good government mean to you, and how does one achieve it?
I think generally speaking, good government is one that inspires trust among the citizenry, which doesn't mean that they're going to agree with our decisions all the time, but they understand the process, how we come about making those decisions, and have confidence that we're in it for the community, not just for ourselves as individuals. But really, it's the fact that so many in our government world want to further good government. Public administration programs teach good government, but everyone has a different idea. As you said, they know it when they see it, or they know it when they smell it. And we don't have good working definitions. And that's one thing that we've been trying to address here in Texas, particularly for our local governments. Can we give them a common language that we can share and build those conversations around?
And Howard, if we had a common language, what would be some of the words you would hear that would be repeated that talk about what good government looks like?
Again, going back to what I said originally, ethics is really important. There are ethics codes that are currently in practice. You're probably familiar with the American Society for Public Administration's ethics code. The International City County Management Association has ethics codes. Then number two is you want an efficient and effective government. And in order to get that, you have to have people in the positions that know what the heck they're doing. And so to me, there's a couple of things that are important. One is the people that are in the jobs that are we call them bureaucrats or public servants. They need to have the skills, knowledge, and abilities to do their job. But maybe even more important are the elected officials. That seems to me to be the undiscovered country in which how do we get them the skills, knowledge, and ability for them to set policies and put good government practices into effect into their jurisdictions.
Alan, as Howard mentioned, effectiveness, efficiency, ethics, those have been principles that have helped achieve good government for some time. How is public service being viewed today, and how has that view maybe changed over the last decades?
I think, James Christian, that so many citizens, including friends and family of mine, have such a negative view toward the government. And when I explore that with them, they're usually formulating their attitudes based on a specific interaction, instances with a particular agency. They're not necessarily hostile toward the municipality that I represent, or the school district that my wife works for, or the agencies that my other friends have served for 20 or 30 years, including federal agencies. And so I think that those of us that are in the public realm, whether you're an elected official or a professional administrator, we have the opportunity at this, our 250th anniversary of our Declaration of Independence, to examine ourselves and admit that this is a great time to look for ways to improve how we're doing things so we can deal with the negativity. And there's just so much state, national, locally that we disagree on. What can we agree on? And I think the essentials of good government Those are things that most of us are going to agree on most of the time. And so to further that dialogue and help institutions with assessments or trainings or new policies and procedures, this is a great time to do the reflection that you mentioned and try to make those tweaks around the edges or some fundamental modifications to the way we do business to help inspire trust. I'm a fan of this podcast, and the podcast often talks about the need for citizens to trust their government in our Republican democratic institutions. That doesn't just happen. That takes effort. And whether we are developing policies in our institutions or we are training and inspiring that next generation of public servants, I think this is a good time to go back to the basics. We all assume what good government is, but everyone's list is just slightly different.
Yeah, things have changed so much over the years. I know when I started my career, the government that was trusted the most was the local government. The closer you are to the people, the more the government was trusted. What's happened now, I think, is a lot of the animosity that has been faced by our national government. That's all kind of spilled down to the local level. You can't go to a school board meeting anymore. You can't go to a city council meeting anymore without everybody being at each other's throats. And I know Alan knows about this more than I do because he attends most of them. And I think probably social media obviously has contributed to a lot of this. And I don't know how we get away from this to get people to kind of trust each other, talk to each other, and kind of compromise on some things rather than having my way or the highway.
Both of you and Texas more generally is doing a lot to inspire trust. The Balanoff Good Government Award recognizes municipalities across the state of Texas that exemplify the 10 Texas traits of good government. Can you talk a little bit more of how those traits really inspire trust and can model the way forward for other municipalities?
Sure. There are different models of what good government means elsewhere. There's European models, there's international organizations that have put forth what they think their priorities are, and there's a lot of overlap. But several city managers, public administration professionals, Professor Balanoff and I, we put some work into saying, what does that mean for our local governments here in Texas? We have 1,200 municipalities in Texas. Those are cities, towns, and villages, in addition to all the 254 counties, school districts, and whatnot. What language can we speak that might influence a city council where your population is several million, or a town where the population is 500? And as a municipal lawyer, that's the range of clients that I have advised. And that's the range of students that Howard sees in the Certified Public Manager program. Department heads and managers from large organizations and very small, remote, rural organizations. So we fashioned what we call the 10 Texas traits of good government. And it's a list that so far, over the last year, no one has really disputed. They don't argue about the 10. They don't say, no, that shouldn't be on there, or you're missing something obvious. And so we're hoping that this list of traits, these fundamental characteristics of a healthy, vibrant government that is likely to inspire more trust, that's something they can use in their training sessions. They can evaluate their policies and procedures. They can adopt an ordinance. Maybe their programs can reflect these. And what I'm inspired by is for those municipalities that have adopted the 10 traits, they can now be held accountable by themselves and by their citizens as to whether or not they're upholding those traits. And for those municipalities that have really revised what they do to show they're committed to good government and are embracing these traits, maybe they can apply for recognition.
I think a key thing about the 10 traits of good government is that most of the ethics codes and everything, they're all aimed at individuals. So Alan has codified something that is aimed more at the organization. So we're trying to get the organization to look at what they're doing organization-wide and subscribe to many of these good government traits. It's not just focused on the individual.
It seems obvious, but a good government city is going to be one that's respectful. It's responsive to its citizens. It's effective in getting things done. Transparency has got to be key in a democracy. It's competent. Howard referenced the need for people who do these jobs to actually be qualified to do these jobs. Ethical is something that I feel like fewer and fewer people care about at a time when it's more important than ever before. I'm a lawyer, so of course I'm partial to lawful. Cities that are trying to be good governments follow the law and show respect for the rule of law. They are innovative, using technology and advances to help provide services better than before. They're economical, recognizing that money is tight and we have to actually be efficient in taking care of these things, whether it's water, sewer, law enforcement, roads, parks. And then finally, the 10th trait is being accountable. We're all accountable to someone. Is it at the ballot box? Is it in the courtroom? With local municipalities, I think we have a great sense of accountability. As Howard mentioned, we're often the most trusted level of government, not because we're necessarily better at providing services. It's because you bump into your mayor at the grocery store. You see the city manager at the ball field when kids are playing baseball. You can get an appointment to see the chief of police in most communities. It gets harder when you move up to the state and federal branches or the judiciary. It's not impossible, but that accountability that comes with that face-to-face interaction has helped those local governments stay true to their citizens, but they can do better.
I think it's really important to recognize the good work of public servants. And speaking of that, Alan, you were and have been recognized as a 250 public service champion. Can you tell us a little bit about what that means to you and how the way you lead might have led to that recognition?
Thank you, James Christian. I got to say, that was a complete surprise. I'm ashamed to have been ignorant of the entire public service champions aspect of Local Gov 250 until I realized I had been selected. And it was a thrill. It was a thrill to meet you in Philadelphia and see those local government leaders from not just across the continental United States, but beyond. And I have dedicated my career to serving local governments, and to see them being recognized at this time that we're all celebrating our 250th as a country and reconsidering how we got here and what it's going to take to go forward. I love the fact that NAPA and other groups are shining the spotlight on those local governments that are providing vital services day and day. I happen to be an officer with the International Municipal Lawyers Association, IMLA, which is affiliated with Local Gov 250. And I love how we and other organizations are encouraging folks to hang in there if you're a public servant, because it is a rough environment. Federally, for sure, state, absolutely, but even at the local level, as Howard mentioned, and trying to inspire that next generation to pursue these careers because we need them. And if you look at the 10 traits that we put together, maybe another group will come up with 15 traits. Okay, that's perfectly fine with me. I want the conversation to get going and just to be part of it. But when you look at the first trait is respect and the 10th trait is accountability, I don't know how much our federal government is showing respect on a daily basis with some of the interactions. And I don't know how accountable some people are. There seems to be a movement that being qualified to serve in government disqualifies you to serve in government. I certainly can't support that, in part because I help train those current leaders and those future leaders. I think we as a people have a shared interest in wanting people to be qualified to do the tasks they're hired to do for our shared mutual benefit. And so I would love to just keep talking about these sorts of things and see what other people's ideas are. Because if we have a shared notion of what the fundamentals are that we all agree on, can we then look for opportunities to improve? And I could sit back and criticize, but criticizing doesn't really interest me. Helping find ways to make modest improvements, or your organization talks often about this new effort to reinvent government, this opportunity when things may be broken to come back and rebuild better. Love being part of that conversation.
One of the things that I think is really important is we probably do a halfway decent job, pretty good job of working with public servants, bureaucrats, if you want to call them. If there's any way we can improve what we're doing with our elected officials, provide them with more professional education and training, because they're part of the system and probably the most important part of the system. And the real challenge to me is, how do you get to city council people? How do you get to elected state officers? How do you get to people that have political appointments at the federal agencies? How do you get them involved in trying to promote good government up and down the line? That's a challenge. I'm not sure I have an answer for it, but that's a challenge.
Yeah, there's no shortage of challenge in government, and that's at any level of government. But one of the things I like most about our 250 public service champions or the Balanoff Award is that it focuses on the opportunity and it highlights the accomplishment and the promise. Howard, you are in the classroom and you get to shape a lot of what our next generation learns and their orientation towards how they might be able to serve. What would be your advice or your message to this next generation to encourage them to enter a career of public service and to take those 10 traits seriously and to do the good work that public servants can do?
I think we do a pretty good job of getting them ready for their entry-level positions. But the problem is there are not enough entry-level positions available. I spend more time trying to keep them motivated and also try to spend a lot of time trying to help them find the positions where they can enter. So I'm hoping that through internships, hopefully paid internships. I'm thinking we overuse the unpaid intern for sure. But in addition to providing them with the skills and with the 10 traits, the biggest problem I have as an educator still is trying to find the slots to get them that first job. And one of the things I like about our Texas Certified Public Manager program is it brings in experienced professionals at mid-level and upper levels. And I'm able to sometimes network my younger students with these professionals. And if I can get them into an internship with their organization, and if they like what they see, they hire them. But this is a challenge that universities and MPA programs are facing. That's a really big one. And hopefully more jobs will open up in the future.
Yeah. And Alan, you're a seasoned, recognized, and celebrated public servant. What would be your message to this next generation?
There's no better way to earn a living than serving your communities. I speak to both public administrators and law students about the fact this is a great way to practice your profession because you're typically representing people that were chosen by their neighbors to step in and make big decisions about vital services. What do you do with water? Where does it come from? Always a big issue in Texas. Wastewater, transportation, parks and rec. I've never run into a burning building or chased down a bad guy, but I get to be a lawyer for those that do those sorts of things. And maybe there's an opportunity for those that had thought about serving at the federal or state level. They should look at the local level and see those jobs that are there. Cities in Texas are exploding with growth and looking for candidates. Part of the challenge is I don't know that out there in the world, going into government service looks like a very attractive thing to do these days. And so I think organizations like NAPA and podcasts like yours help put the information out there that some really smart people that are highly educated and absolutely devoted to serving democracy are finding good, productive jobs at all levels of government. And we need to look for these opportunities, not just pay attention to the struggles that we're having. Yes, we can address the struggles and the difficulties. They are real. This is going to take us a long time to rebuild some of our agencies. That's why we need the best and brightest to pursue public service.
I think one of the best advertisements to get people to think about public service and to go into it is to obviously celebrate those who are in public service, tell their stories, but also get them to tell what inspires them, why they serve, and what they're committed to so that people can hear that firsthand. So let's end our discussion by discussing each of your commitments to public service and what you find to be the most pressing issue when it comes to defining what is good government. So what would you encourage governments, not just Texas, but of all levels, to continue to do or to start doing or to stop doing to help make government much better and really adhere to that good government principle? Howard, maybe we start with you, and then Alan would really like your thoughts towards the end as well.
I think local governments, first of all, they have to recognize the 10 traits that Alan is talking about and how important they are. Again, I got into public service at Texas State University many years ago, but my service started way before that. I was, as a young officer in the United States Air Force, I started my career and began to understand what it was like to serve my country. So you start with a sense of patriotism. I served for 7 years on active duty. I served 13 additional years in the reserves, did tours of duty as a missile combat crew commander, sat in a missile hole in Great Falls, Montana. And when I left, I said, where am I going to go now? So what I decided was I would go to one of our premier institutions in Texas, Alwan, Texas State University. And I decided let's look at urban and regional planning. And so I became really interested in community development and planning. So I got my master's and PhD, and then I went first jobs were much more available then than they are now. Came to Austin, Texas to serve as in what's now the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality. So I served at the state level and got an idea what it was like to protect the environment in the state of Texas. And then an opportunity came to teach at Texas State University. And believe it or not, I took a pay cut, but I decided to go there anyway and work with young people. Again, it's what's inside you. It seemed like I kind of like to work with young people and maybe transfer some of the knowledge or skills that I have. And that I've enjoyed so much that I've been doing it I'm now finishing up my 52nd year at Texas State University. And I continue to work with them because the students and because I enjoy it. And I think the 10 traits that we've developed are important. I want to communicate that to them. I'm really focused on the students and try to get them not only in internships, but into jobs at local, state, and federal level. So if you care about people, then that's something that you want to have everybody feel the same way if possible. So you try and transmit not only knowledge, but attitudes and feelings to your future leaders and managers. So, but I'll let Alan finish up. I can ramble on forever if you want, but I won't do that for sure.
Thanks, Howard. I'll treat James Christian's podcast as a confessional here and admit that I used to quip that I was a public servant who didn't really like dealing with the public at all. And being a city attorney, that was easy for me to say. I deal with city managers, mayors, city council members, department heads. I'm not a frontline person. And as a municipal lawyer, I really quite skilled at advising clients on things like the minimum number of public hearings they need to have in order to take action legally. How much documentation must they release to the public upon request? And as time has gone on, while I value all the 10 traits and think they have applicability to all sorts of agencies, to answer your question, James Christian, if I have to pick one, it's going to be transparency. And there's nothing novel about transparency and civic engagement, but it's something that I came to late in my law practice because I've learned that so many of my clients do the bare minimum when they really should be investing time, money, effort into telling their stories, engaging citizens where the citizens are. Let's not just sit back and go, if you care, you show up to city council meetings. Your council meetings go for 7 or 8 hours and end at midnight. Not everyone can do that. There's alternate ways to engage people. Let's not just react to the town troll or crank that's the loudest. Let's find other ways to communicate. And with technology, we can do that. And I think there's more opportunities to engage those citizens, involve them, not just tell them what we're doing, tell them why, and get their input and feedback. And we're not going to persuade all of them to believe we're smart and we're right, but we can keep the majority in step with us. And so I appreciate programs that try to help agencies engage those citizens, because after 29 years of practicing municipal law, I've seen so many local governments treat citizens as a distraction, as a pain, a necessary evil. Don't worry, we in City Hall know what to do. Trust us. Yeah, it doesn't work that way. It never has. And in 2026, it's absolutely not going to be that way. So I celebrate those cities that I've observed that get more citizens on advisory boards, have more town hall meetings, have surveys, use technology, go out to where the citizens are, go out to where the regulated community is. If you're adopting new zoning rules, have you talked to the builders, the architects, the engineers, the realtors, and heard from the regulated community? There are certain structures that you have to do that. Perhaps if you're adopting a new federal reg, there's not that level of structure when it comes to local government. Well, we can do a better job, and hopefully bit by bit, we'll regain some of that trust that we've lost, not just because we persuaded them, but because we're actually doing a better job than we were before.
The 10 Texas traits of good government, a really good first step to achieving good government, not just for Texas, but across the country. respectful, responsive, effective, transparent, competent, ethical, lawful, innovative, fiscally sound, and accountable, all simple things to say, but hard to achieve and incredibly important to adhere to. And when people do, they should certainly be recognized for it. Alan, Howard, thank you so much for your advice and your encouragement towards achieving good government. This has been a great conversation. Thank you to you both.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Management Matters is a presentation of the National Academy of Public Administration, produced by Lizzie Alwan and Matt Hampton, and edited by Matt Hampton.